Alright, so now it's time for dating advice for men, right? I made a video for women, now there has to be a video for men. I was trying to think of why I decided to make the video for women first. I don't even know that I had plans to make a video for men, it's just whatever was rattling around my mind, about this strategy for women, something that would make sense came up, so I felt compelled to make that video. And now I'm making this video simply as an act of balance, or it just seems like it only makes sense now. And so I tried to record this a few minutes ago, and I was rambling on for 20 plus minutes, and it just felt like too much and too many repeated ideas. And so I want to simplify it kind of like I did that video. Sure, there could be 20 parts to any of this, right? 20 videos on dating advice for men or women. And who knows, maybe at some point I'll be inspired to do that. But for the point of simplicity and for keeping your attention, let's sort of get to the point, right? We know that you can go work out and get some muscles. You can wear stylish clothes. You can try to figure out how to make a lot of money, or at least present yourself as if you have money, right? We know the stereotypical characteristics that women tend to like, but let's just ignore all that, or just, that's a given. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt, truthfully, it's not going to hurt men or women to wear some nice clothes, get in good shape. Probably not a bad idea. But what I want to talk about here is masculinity. So there's a lot of talk about this these days, right? Conservatives promoting masculinity, leftists talking about toxic masculinity. And one thing I can tell you for sure, regardless of where you stand on this in terms of politically, what your focus is on, that men aren't masculine enough, or men are too masculine, or whatever. In terms of dating, women like masculinity. They like strength. They like confidence. They like a guy that will push back. And it doesn't matter if they're on the left or the right. So recently I went on a date with someone absolutely woke, literally was holding an essay on some sort of woke topic on the date. As I arrive at the coffee shop, she's reading woke literature. And this first date we spent, and that's maybe a video for another time, a subject matter I've talked about in the past. Is this worth my time? Why am I doing this? And so on. But putting that aside, we spent hours on this date kind of debating some of this woke stuff. And I can tell you, regardless of how I felt about her or whatever, she liked me. She later was proposing that we have sex on a future text communications. She wanted to drive. So she doesn't live here in Florida, but she wanted to drive and meet me halfway to have sex, right? And this is a little me boasting, but this is not meant just as something for me to boast about. The point is that even in her wokeness, my opinionated whatever did it for her. Now, yes, she obviously thought I was gorgeous, who doesn't? But it doesn't matter. Masculinity wins in dating, okay? And this is where there's a sort of contradiction, or there's an issue, and I've brought this up so much in the past, so I don't want to try to ramble on too much about this, but regardless of how woke anyone is, for the most part, ignoring the exceptions, they don't really want a man who's weak, overly sensitive, overly vulnerable, and so on. And so what this means is that regardless of how things ought to be, or what a perfect world would look like, or we can get into it, what's masculinity versus what's toxic masculinity. Vulnerability, weakness, seeming too needy, being too needy, all these kind of things that you could associate with any sort of weakness don't play well with women. Now, yes, there can be women who are into you for whatever the reason is that they're into you, right? Your looks or just whatever it is about you that they were attracted to, and they can be okay with you being vulnerable and so on. But the general way things work, 99% of the time, is everything associated with confidence and strength, outside of just being an outright awful human being, over the top asshole. It's like, obviously it's toxically masculine if what you're calling masculinity is people doing horrible things to people, right? But being a little bit outspoken, offensive, unapologetic about who you are, not tiptoeing around everybody's feelings. Women like that. That's just the way it is, right? And so I think it's hard for men because not only do you have a society that really, in a lot of ways, has tried to kind of beat down on men, but you have a dating culture where we know, as I've pointed out, what happens on these apps, right? And of course, on apps where women say no to 95% of the men and men say yes to 50% of the women, you can look up the statistics yourself and tell me what they are, but this is a general idea. Of course, this is going to be demoralizing for a lot of men. And this is why a lot of men have sort of opted out of this dating game entirely. And I think the statistics are that like 1/3 of men under 30 are having no sex or haven't had sex in the past year or something like that. You have to, as a man, you have to make an effort to be a person that you respect and admire. And no matter what society says to you, no matter whatever bad experiences you've had, you have to be strong. This is a burden that men carry. And I know some women, I'm strong too. And this isn't to you, right? This is for men. But you have to be particularly strong. Whereas if you're an attractive woman in your 20s and 30s, a lot of men are going to tend to forgive a lot of behavior. Even if a lot of those men, maybe they were just wanting to get in your pants or whatever it may be, and some of them want relationships even and will ignore those things. That's a luxury that attractive young women have. But as a man, you can't do that. You've got to keep your shit together. You've got to find a way to be strong. And even when you're feeling weak, you have to project strength. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that you need to just bottle all this stuff up. Men probably could benefit from having more male friendships where they can be open about their feelings. That'd probably be it wouldn't be a terrible thing. Men can benefit from maybe seeing a therapist. Men would benefit from having a good relationship with parents or siblings or people in their lives that they can talk to about struggles that they're having. But particularly when it comes to dating, as much as women might try to pretend, and even they might even think that they're a safe space for you to just be totally open and be yourself and whatever that is to you, right? I say don't do it. Don't do it. Basically what I mean is you need to be strong, you need to be confident, and yes, occasionally when you connect with someone, you can be honest to a degree about things that you struggle with or have struggled with in life. But it should be very limited, and it still needs to be presented from a position of strength. Like, oh yeah, these are some things, you can't be fragile. You can't be fragile. You can't seem like you can't handle whatever life throws at you. And this might seem harsh. This might even annoy women who think that that's not how it works. Maybe it'll annoy men who think whatever. But you just can't do this. So masculinity, particularly in dating, and in other ways in life too, of course, but we're not talking about that right now, is important. And part of this, though, isn't just a thing that's like this Andrew Tate sort of masculinity on steroids stereotype, right? It's helpful to be, you can still be respectful. You can be decent. But you can't be scared to sometimes say things that might offend people. You can't be scared to have boundaries, to stand up for yourself. And really, men need to do a lot more rejecting than they do. Part of the problem is, and we all know this sort of, it's like, women are the gatekeepers of sex and all this stuff, and men will sleep with anything. Really, men need to stop doing that. Men need to raise the bar as far as what they expect from women, and not to just make looks be the end-all be-all. Of course, men are very visually driven, and that's probably not going to just go away. But men actually need to have higher standards, which is very difficult, right? It's very difficult in a culture, like a dating culture, like with these kind of swipe statistics, right? But at the same time, it's necessary. And I think through that, even if it can make times lonely, right? If men are pickier in the right ways, it might mean less sex, less interactions with women because you're rejecting more. It's going to ultimately put you in a better place, mentally, emotionally, and so on, where you can start having confidence in yourself. You can be disciplined. You feel better about who you're interacting with and the standards that you have, that when a good woman does come along, you're mentally prepared to be a good man for her.